Hi everyone, this is Zoe Hughes here, the Senior Policy and Research Officer with Care Alliance Ireland, and welcome to our presentation that Tara O'Connor, my colleague who runs the online family care support project, just to let you know, she made this presentation at our AGM on Tuesday the 13th of September, and unfortunately the beginning of the recording was lost, and so I'm recreating that here to give you the flavor of the first few of the slides that were presented. So just to let you know, this project, how did it start? So first we're going to go back to 2020. So prior to COVID, our organization worked mainly in the background on policy and research and supporting member organizations, and we didn't work directly with family carers. So in March 2020, COVID struck and everything changed. Daycare, respite, dementia cafes, and face-to-face support groups stopped many overnight. It was a time of massive confusion, misinformation, and fear for everybody, but especially for family carers looking after a vulnerable loved one at home. Some organisations found it challenging to respond, and very little was online then, and Care Alliance saw the gap. Their small size at that time was a staff of 2, quite tech literate staff who had the drive and desire to make this happen. And having that small team allowed them to react quickly, pivoting the focus of the organisation to where it was needed. And very importantly, they had the full support of the board behind them, and so we started the online family care support group. So the initial aims of the project were to create a space where family carers could go and get reliable, trustworthy information, especially important in the early days of the pandemic with so much misinformation and hearsay flying around. It was hard to know what was what. We wanted to have a space where family carers could connect and support each other. So nobody understands a family carer like another family carer can. That connection and knowing that someone else gets you is absolutely priceless. We wanted to signpost to services and other organizations. For example, early in the pandemic, organizations that would supply family carers with hand sanitizers when there was a shortage, sharing what other organizations were doing, helplines, etc., anything of benefit to family carers. So the main objectives of the project were and still are to increase the overall well-being of family carers in Ireland, to reduce the negative impacts often experienced, such as loneliness and social isolation. Family carers are proven to have significantly greater risk of isolation, depression, and anxiety than the general population. And obviously, that was greatly exacerbated by COVID-19. But just like it was before COVID, it is unfortunately still a reality for many family carers in a post-COVID world. So the online support project is run through the Facebook platform, and here is a screenshot of the homepage, and members' identities have been concealed. And so at this point of the presentation, I'm going to hand over to Tara from the past, who will run you through the rest of the presentation.
We run it through a private group. So that means that only members can see who is in it and what is posted. When a family carer posts here, nothing shows up on their own timeline or anything like that. Only members in the group can see. They do also have the option to post anonymously. Sometimes family carers have questions or issues that are sensitive that you might not want your neighbour or somebody else to know about. So there is now an anonymous feature where you can just click post anonymously and get replies. Now, the moderators and admin, we can still see who is posting, but the rest of the group can't. That's a relatively new feature in Facebook, but it's an option we always had from the start. People would just message me instead, and then I'll post on their behalf. They're still getting their information, but nobody else knows who is there. So why Facebook in the first place? Well, using an existing platform like Facebook was the fastest way to reach a large number of family carers all around the country. A group can be created on Facebook at the click of a button. and it's the most cost effective as well. It's completely free to set up. We also decided to go where the carers already are. So from data from the end of 2021 shows that 72% of the Irish population are still on Facebook. This graph shows the demographic of Facebook users in Ireland. The largest cohort of family carers in Ireland are women in the 35 to 54 age group, and that's an age cohort that is heavily represented in Ireland's Facebook users. I do think it's always important to say that this is not just a Facebook group. We are a professionally moderated, fully funded support group that happens to use the Facebook platform. Here is just a brief overview of our operations. Peer support is a central part of the group. There's nothing like talking to somebody who understands your struggles, who has been in similar situations. We also have professional guidance and referrals. And then we have different various activities, which I'll go into a little bit more detail now. Our volunteers, they're the heart of the group, really. We currently have a team of 12. And they are made up of a mix of family carers and former and current family carers and professionals. Most of the professional volunteers have been involved from the very start, when Liam and Zoe originally reached out through their own network. And as a result, we have professionals from areas such as social workers, dementia advisors, and those working in the mental health fields, all volunteer with us. The family carer volunteers are just as important, and we do really value their input. You know, nobody can understand the issues and difficulties that family carers face more than a family carer. We approach recruiting our volunteers a little bit differently. Our volunteers were all originally regular members of the group, and we approach them. We don't do open volunteer call. They stood out to us for being, you know, very empathetic, answering really well, and then we approached them and asked them to join the group. And in fact, that's how I myself originally became involved. Originally, I was a regular member, a family carer, looking after my mother-in-law at home. COVID struck. Knew nobody in the county I was in, separated from my own support group, couldn't travel to. So I found this group, and I just straight away, the community, that isolation, knowing that you're not alone in the world, makes such a difference. Liam approached me about being a volunteer, and I joined the volunteer team. And then eventually, when the funding became available, I moved into initially the part-time project worker, and now full-time project management of the project. So that gives me a unique perspective to add to the team. I've seen it from every stage as we've gone through. But having the volunteers from different backgrounds has really facilitated a unique holistic element of support to the group. So they support by sharing their knowledge and expertise, offering practical strategies to cope with different issues that come up. All of our posts are pre-moderated on the group. Every comment is read by either myself or one of my volunteer team. We have a 7-day-week rota, so somebody is always on call approving posts. And our volunteers also assist with the various activities that we offer. This is a screenshot of our separate mods and Vols, moderator and volunteer group, which we use. This is a place where we can discuss challenging issues that come up in the group. We can formulate appropriate responses to different dilemmas that have come up. The culture of the online support group, it's really one that's really supportive, friendly, and genuinely kind to each other. Thankfully, it's very rare that we have any sort of nastiness at all. But if we have to take disciplinary action, we do. And we have zero tolerance for any sort of nastiness towards each other. Our volunteers are always keeping a close eye on everything that's going on and let me know if something needs my attention. We have a resources section there where they can see template responses, the different protocols to follow, very clearly laid out. If you have an immediate concern, then you do 1, 2, 3, which normally eventually end up notifying me. If needs to be Irene, leave. There's a clear set defined process to follow for everybody. We hold monthly Zoom meetings, and that's where the volunteers and staff come together and discuss issues that come up. We make plans for the group and keep volunteers up to date on any admin stuff about the project. We do take support in the volunteers very seriously, especially those who are family carers themselves. Recently, our staff and volunteers took part in an online moderation training with a specialist from the UK. And a large part of that was centred around self-care and strategies for protecting our volunteers from the risk of vicarious trauma that they may come up when they're in their volunteer role. And having this Mods and Vols group has really made it possible for the volunteers to bond as a team. They're located all across the country, but still they feel like a close-knit team. So one of the things that seems we might be doing things right is that we have a very slow turnover of volunteers. They've all been with us for an extremely long time. The newest ones are already a year, and the rest of those have been involved since nearly the beginning, so for over 2 years. So we do all of the range of activities that we do, everything is online, 100%. But all the activities have the one aim: to encourage family carers to participate and reduce the loneliness and isolation that many experience. Because all the activities are online, it makes it much more accessible for family carers. They don't need to worry about getting a replacement care or travelling to the nearest town. It's all available from your home. We have weekly Zoom coffee meetings, monthly quiz nights, a crafty carers club that meets once a fortnight, as well as regular competitions and giveaways where we send hundreds of care hampers around the country. These are just a few quotes from members who've received something in the post from us. And as you can see there, it's not just about, oh great, I won something. These things really do have meaning. And you've no idea how much this brightened my day. You know, it's the best thing I ever did joining this group. It means more than just for the value of the items you're getting. Somebody's thinking of you, the carer. You're not the second thought. Somebody's actually taking the time to do it, and people really respond so well to it. Even if it's just a card that I send out to say, I see you're having a rough week, I'm so sorry, I'm thinking of you. That kind of thing makes such a difference to somebody's day. Just to quickly tell you how we run, this is our book club that we run. And again, just receiving a book in the post has such a huge positive impact. How we run our book club is that we have one every 2 months. Then I post a choice of 4 books. You can see here, this is September's book club choices. Each 2 months, we send out about 120 books to family carers all across the country. The members choose which book they want. And then about 6 to 8 weeks later, we have a Zoom book club night where we all meet on Zoom. We use the Zoom breakout room feature. And that means you're in a room with the people who read your book. You're at home, chatting away, and it turns from talk about your book and talk about whatever under the sun comes up. But people really enjoy it, and they really get so much out of it. You can see a little quote there just from somebody after their first one, that how much it was so enjoyable and can't wait for the next one. The garden club that we do is also extremely popular. It's actually called Carers in Bloom. It's the name they come up themselves for it. So we regularly send out seeds again, you're just spending little something. It's very little cost, but it does have so much more meaning. These are two more recent seed post outs we did. One was the mixed herbs and then summer flowers. So we've also done vegetables, pumpkins, you name it. But like many studies have found, gardening can have a real positive effect on mental health. So with our garden club, you get 2 for 1. You get the added benefit and encouragement to get out in the fresh air. Even if it's just a balcony, you don't need to have a big massive garden. You can do it in a pot, but you're also connecting and engaging with other like-minded people. The garden club has its own WhatsApp group, and it is really active. You definitely want notifications set off, constantly all day going through it. There's just a couple of little quotes from people. One, somebody who'd never planted anything before, but the other just, they really do, another little community has developed where it might start at gardening, it develops on outside of that and just connects people. And some of my volunteers are very heavily involved in the WhatsApp group, so they keep an eye on things. And if anything comes up, if they're worried about anyone or somebody seems particularly distressed, they'll come to me and let me know. And then I can reach out to that member individually and just check in that everything's going okay. Kind of as part of the garden, last year we did a photo competition and created a beautiful calendar with images from the gardens and other nature ones that people submitted. Obviously, I can't show you it all here, so I'm just showing you September's, this one. So anybody who won the photo competition got their own special month, but every single person who submitted an image, their photo is in the calendar somewhere. It was my lovely colleague Amy over there. She's our talented designer who came up with all of this for us. Also on this, each month we have a quote from a very special member of the group. We have one lady who every single morning posts a heartwarming, uplifting, positive message without fail. I think we're nearly 2 years now she's a member and never misses. And members literally wait. If she happens to be a bit late one day, I get messages going, is she okay? So I approached her, and obviously with her permission, we have one of her quotes. It's at the end of each month as well to see it going through. So we did get so much amazing feedback about this. We are doing it again this year. So we're in the process now, or say Amy's in the process of designing and making it pretty for us. This is the card that we sent out as well with it. And I just want to, because it was at Christmas time, obviously, but this heart design here, every word in there was taken from members of the group, of things that they said in the group. Like, this group is a lifeline. I get so much comfort. I've met so many friends. That's all directly from the words of the members. The art classes are something we very recently joined, and yet again we've pulled in our talented Amy. She has become the fallback for graphic art. Amy, we called her in. These have been so popular since we started doing them. What we do is we're doing 4-week courses. We're currently in our 3rd run of it. At the start of each of the 4-week course, we send out the art supplies to 20 people. And that's just the ad for the original one that we put in the group. We send out supplies, people come along, past participants can come along with their own paint, but it's become so popular. And I started an art thread just with this last class, place where people could put what they created in class up. I think we're currently at nearly 300 comments, and it only went up about 2 weeks ago. You know, it's really captured everybody's imagination. So then, another advantage of using Facebook platform is that we have access to Facebook analytics. Right now, we have 3,875 members. That's family carers located in every county in Ireland. There's been no slowdown in the rate of membership requests. which you might expect if members were just using this as a stopgap until traditional supports reopened. But in fact, the opposite has happened. We've had continuing growth, and actually the rate of membership it's increasing. This graph shows the growth from 1st of January 22 up to the 10th of September. So the reopening of face-to-face is not slowing down. It's not impacting us at all. And just important to note, by the way, this is completely organic growth. We don't advertise the group. This all comes from word of mouth. So as a churn retention rate, again, because we have access to the analytics, we know 96% of those that were a member in September 21 are still a member in September 22 there. And they also give us information on our engagement levels. We have a really, really high engagement rate. Now, Facebook defines active as someone when they like, comment, or engage with a post in the group that they register then. But that's an astoundingly high percentage of a group that are actually acting in it. Last year, we did a snapshot poll of the group, asking if they've been involved in face-to-face support groups before COVID. 91% had never been involved in face-to-face support groups. Like, that's a really high percentage. And this indicates to us that there's a cohort of family carers that the traditional support model just didn't work for them anyway. And we are seeing that now. There's no slowdown in the rate of membership. You know, more people are requesting. A lot of the traditional support groups are now opening back up, which is brilliant that they're all now started back up again. But what our group isn't a replacement. In the ideal world, we have both. We can do both and put them together. Like, if you think about it, it does make sense. If you think about the life of a family carer, they can engage in our group, they can do it at a time that suits themselves. Then it's there 24/7. The live events, such as the quiz, coffee morning, because they're all online, you can pop in, you can pop out. If your loved one needs you can pause, jump in and come back out. It just makes it so much more accessible for them. So while it may originally have been set up as a direct response to COVID, I think all these numbers are showing us the demand and need for it is there and will continue to be there post-COVID. This image just shows a very brief overview of member activity through the past year. So we have nearly 1,500 posts, 50,000 comments, and over 120,000 reactions. They're large numbers. These are people are really getting into it. They're not just scrolling, they are actively engaging. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into how active the members are. Collaboration-wise, we signpost and refer family carers to other organisations as appropriate. Might be to the Alzheimer's Society, Family Carers Ireland. We'll share if we see courses other organisations are running, we'll share it in the group. Anything that might be of interest to family carers, we try our best to let everybody know about it. Joint courses and activities. We've done educational talks with other organisations. We recently did a 6-week health and wellness course in collaboration with Age and Opportunity, who changed their course to gear it specifically towards our family carer members. We're always open to working with any other organisations. We're also currently taking part in a pilot called In Your Own Time with the Drogheda Arts Centre, where they give our members a chance to view a filmed piece of theatre from home every month, giving people access to a world when you can't go out to the theatre at 8 o'clock at night. Now they can still see it, but they can do it from home. So to quickly say on the research, we are collaborating with the University of Limerick in a PhD research project, which is Rosemary Daines Kearney, the PhD researcher. She's looking into the impact of online supports for family carers, looking into why they're important, what works well, and who uses them. Her study has 3 parts, but the one specifically for us is the first one. This specifically looks at our online family care support. All of the interviews have taken place and she's currently in the analysis stage. Delivered a joint presentation earlier in the year with Rosemary, and the preliminary results are really promising. They're showing that our support group does have a meaningful positive impact on our members. The PhD research will continue with a wider survey and then eventually a revised model for best practice. And I believe it's due the summer of 2023. We in Care Alliance, we're also currently in the process of developing our own evaluation survey for members. That's part of our agreement with the HSC, but it will also allow us to gather more information about what is working, what we could be doing better, and anything else to improve our members' experience. So very quickly with funding. So initially in 2020, we were funded by the Community Foundation of Ireland and the National Lottery. We were very fortunate at the end of last year, we were granted recurring funding with the HSC, which is great because that obviously a recognition of the value that the project provides. And it does mean that the project is sustainable going into the future. And now I have questions there. I would be happy to take there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Tara. People can maybe just through the comments option, put in a question or two with a few minutes, and then in a couple of minutes, we'll move on to the AGM. So welcome to those of you who may have just joined in the last few minutes to join Care Alliance Ireland AGM. We're just going to spend a few more minutes now reflecting on what Tara has said. So thank you, Tara. So we'll give people a moment, maybe from the group present here. Surely we've one question planted somewhere. Thank you, Rory.
Really
Our incoming chair.
Tara, great to actually see. Just interested geographically, do you know where they're coming from? Is it all around the country, or is it just because it just sounds ridiculous?
It is. That's one of the big benefits is that Facebook gives us that data. Now, with the caveat, where you have written in your profile you live doesn't necessarily mean that's where you live. Some people don't change it when it moves. So all we can say though, from what people have on their profile, we can see exactly how many members are in this area, this area, this area. And literally they are in every county. And I think generally it kind of follows the general population. You say that Dublin would have the most, but there's more. The big cities have more, and then smaller towns.
There's members in every small town in Ireland. I say that kind of in jest, but it's true. You could have 5. Yeah, and it's great. So we can articulate to funders locally to go. It's not just about carers in Dublin, or it generally represents the population, I would say. So Dublin is probably about 30 to 40% of our members, followed by Cork, Galway. Would that be
there? Yep. Yep.
And I think what's great as well, it's captured a market that hadn't been caught pre-COVID. It's the whole thing about blended stuff, isn't it? That some people prefer face-to-face, some people do online, and it's that flexibility. So it seems absolutely fantastic. Well done.
Thank you.
Did some questions come in there? Questions kind of came up on the screen and then went away.
Yeah.
There's lots of great, well done comments. So I thought I saw 1 or 2 questions. There was one long question I thought came in.
No,
I know we have a question in there.
Sorry, yes, there was one question. There was lots of people just saying thank you for a great presentation. So and it was really, really helpful, really useful. From Eamon, who's watching us online, there was a question which I think might be a little bit too big to answer in this one session, but I'll read it out anyway. As an ANP working in the acute setting and dealing with a lot of carers who need to advocate for their loved one, what should I know that can assist the family carer? I work on an acute hospital team caring for those over 65. That's quite a large question, but go for it, Tara.
I think definitely start off is that you need to direct them to the right support groups. So obviously I would say us, obviously but even it is a great place for the family carers themselves, if they're dealing with a loved one in hospital, that's actually a really stressful environment. You're fighting with doctors, you're trying to stand up and be heard, and even in getting support in the background. So I would say to them, like, tell them to find us on Facebook. The link will be at the end of that. But also then organisations like Family Carers Ireland, they're set up with more specialised one-to-one support that can offer if there's a particular extreme situation like that. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Very well done.
Time for one more question?
There is another question from just come in. Do you have set moderation hours for the group on Facebook, or is it 24/7?
Well, it's open 24/7. You can access the group 24/7. But as a general rule, there's not dead set. If one of my moderators happens to be online at 2 in the morning and sees a post, they will be quite happy to click it. But in general, you can expect in the middle of the night, it'll be the next morning that your post will be approved, would be the general.
That's great.
Okay, thank you very much.
There's a question very quickly about children.
There was a very quick question, and that will be the last one I think we have time for. Do you have many parents caring for children under 16 participating?
Yes. Yes, a lot. That's something we're not a condition-specific group. So we have people who are caring for babies, children, adults, the whole spectrum. And we have found that they have more in common than they have apart, whether you're caring for a small child or an elderly parent. When you actually get down to it, the issues that you have, the emotions as a carer, everything, they're very, very similar. And there's a lot of kind of support and ideas and things that people pick up from each other really well, transfers. So it's like, yes, definitely you should come along. We do have loads.
Okay, thank you on that. Thanks again, Tara, for a really good presentation. Thanks for your comments and for your participation. We'll